Hello, everybody. So today I have with me Violet, who I was introduced to through Angelo, and I watched some of her videos and just felt like we would have a really nice conversation together. Just energy-wise, I just felt like there was lots of similarities between us. Yeah, so I have this funny experience where somebody once said to me on an interview, "Welcome, Lisa," and my reply came, "Welcome." We both just laughed. So now every time I go to say welcome to someone, I always get giggly. Welcome, Lisa. Welcome. It just came out.
Well,
And
it's
they were
like,
so serious.
whose show are we welcoming each other to?
Well, welcome to this moment.
Welcome to this moment, Lisa. I don't know how much of this we're going to get through without giggling.
Yeah.
I could already feel that it's really passionate energy. It's beautiful.
And I might keel over halfway through the interview because I've been trying a new diet. Just Violet knows, but just for other people that are watching this, which is kind of abstract. But for other people watching this, I've been trying the keto diet, and I have gone through the keto flu, which is so intense if you ever try it. So there might just be a keeling over. I might just suddenly
Well,
disappear.
because of Angelo, I do know virtual resuscitation. So
Oh, yeah. Virtual resuscitation.
virtual resuscitation. I know exactly what to do if you keel over.
Should I ask what you would do?
It's one of those things that like I don't even like. I know that I know, but I don't really know until it happens what the steps are. So we'd have to just find out.
Yeah. Okay. Now back to some type of form. So
I don't know how this is going to be serious between the two of us.
well, I'm sure we can find it again, because last night I said to Violet that I wouldn't watch her interview, an interview with her beforehand, so that we could be like really fresh. I wouldn't know anything about her. But then last night I couldn't sleep because the keto diet keeps you awake. And I watched it. But it was so beautiful watching the video. It was so beautiful getting lost in your eyes. Like, you just have such beautiful eyes, and they were just like really glowing. Yeah, it was just really just felt like such a beautiful person. And you've been through a lot. Like, when I was watching the interview, I realized like there is a lot of depth of experiencing that a lot of people in this life won't understand or won't know or won't move through. And just was like really impressed that you'd come to this subject and you'd had this realization and awakening on shifts, and then also with such a deep story as well. Like just, yeah, at such a young age. I don't know what your age is, but you look very young on camera.
Yeah, I'm only now 33.
Yeah, amazing.
Still young, and first awakening happened, I think, 28.
Yeah, beautiful.
So, yeah.
And now you share on the internet about it, and you work along with Angelo, or do you work by yourself? Or
I really work by myself. It kind of like in the sense that like it sort of started like I was an interior designer, and I was just trying to start my life after divorce and get myself on my own feet. And I'd went through this process, and at that point a year and a half ago, it matured a lot. There's still more to deepen, of course, but it matured a lot. And I guess Angelo published his book, and then he got a lot of emails from people that said, hey, I'd like to talk to somebody one-on-one about this stuff. And I also have a nervous system condition where with my muscles. So when I was in interior design, I started doing a lot of labor because I'm very like particular and perfectionist with my design. So it started where I would design it and I would have another contractor, like a man, create the design, like build. And then I didn't like how they would build it. So I started to build myself, and I started to do kitchen remodels, which was a lot of labor. We have to take all the cabinets down sand everything. It was so much physical, and it was really good for me in the beginning, but it started to become really hard on my body. So I started to
Right.
think like, well, what will I do instead? I had no idea what I would maybe do for work. And then yeah, just right around that same time where I started like intuitively feeling like this isn't going to last very much longer, Angela said, hey, I have all these people, do you want to talk to them?
Wow.
So I said, oh, okay, I guess. And you know, I love this subject, and it's like really the only thing that's important to me.
Yeah.
And I, you know, they come from Angelo's teaching to one extent because of his book, but and I know his work. Like I've sat at every single one of his talks since 5 years since he started talking to people. So I know his work,
Mm.
and he's been my pretty much only teacher, and his work in the way that like how he shares it and so forth. And then yeah, he said, hey, do you want to talk to people? And I said, sure. And yeah, I thought I would just talk to people like here and there, and I would still do my job. And then I was for 6 months doing both. And then by January, I was like, I can't do both. I'm just going to open up my schedule. And I didn't
Wow.
take any more interior design clients. And then last year, January, 1 year now, it's been full time
Oh, wow.
into people. So yeah, it's been really dynamic and beautiful.
Oh, that's amazing. You begin to realize like the desire out there for this subject.
Yeah, it's like I'm kind of shocked. Like I don't know. At first, I remember going, "Oh, I don't know. Like, I don't know what to say to people. Like, I don't know that I could, you know." And there's a lot of this that I'm like, I don't know that I want to recommend people go on this path. Like, it's the most beautiful thing, but like, this is not an easy endeavor, I guess you could say. But I don't know. Also, if you find yourself on this path, I think it's really helpful to have the context or have the people that resonate or the way that it's said that resonates with you. So you have the guidance and the direction.
Mm.
Because I think I was going through this for like maybe 3 years before I met Angelo, and I thought I was going insane. Like I thought something is wrong with me. I can't tell anybody what's going on.
Yeah.
And I was having like perceptual shifts and all kinds of weird things. And now I get
Right.
it.
Yeah.
But so to have the context when I first met Angela was the most powerful thing in my whole journey, I think for
Yeah.
sure.
And this is another similarity that we both have is that we both had boyfriends that are teachers, which is so
Yeah.
intense. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know if we can share that much about it because it's difficult, like sharing about your ex. Well, for me, it's ex-partner, but for you, it's your
Yeah.
partner online. But yeah, it is really intense, and people don't realize that. Like I felt like I was incapacitated for some years because of all the energetic stuff going on and the movements in my body and the emotions and the responses and like the energies that were coming out of me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I think what's really important to put into this conversation, which you probably felt, I don't know, but at least I know for sure I felt like this. When I met Angela, I was really emotional. I was insecure in all the ways, really. I was like, you know, I was not awakened yet, which I don't mean to say is like a bad thing, but I just was in my dynamics, and
Mm,
I was going through a divorce, which was really dynamic, you know. So
mm,
there was a lot of grasping and a lot of, and then there was this, you know, Angela's quite a bit older than me, and he's quite a bit further along than me on the path, as far as the path
yeah.
is concerned, as far as years in practice. And I think because of my insecure attachment style, I was thinking like he's better than me and putting him on a pedestal and putting him, and then there's this dynamic of him being my teacher, you know. So there's
Mm,
so many dynamics, and you can say in some context, sure, he knew more than me in this realm and this subject or whatever in some way, but I don't know. I don't know how much you want to go into that, but I really feel like that was a really important part of it for me to see, to now where we're sort of, I feel so healthy in my relationship with him that now it feels very equal
mm,
in those ways. And it doesn't,
mm,
now I don't see it like he knows any more than me or I know any more than him, or even that we know the same thing.
yeah.
It's not even that anymore, which is quite
Yeah,
beautiful.
no, totally. I understand what you mean. I had to, after me and my ex-partner broke up, which was like I think over 12 years ago now, but after we broke up, I had to go through a detox of that because it was so intense having teacher, partner, and friend combined together.
Totally.
So
And only
like,
friend.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
so I went to, I don't know if you know my story, but I went to Australia to live with him, and we lived in the forest, and there were basically only had 2 other friends in Australia, and they also were like kind of Roger's students as well. And it was like, in one way, it was like being in a cult, and I had to detox from being in a cult. But in another way, it absolutely saved my life. And I'm so glad I went through it. But there is like a cult element to this subject when you get into it, like, because you have to let go of those ideas as well. And I don't think you can ever get out of that when you have a teacher and a student. There's going to be these bizarre dynamics of what you project onto them, and like they're still human with their dynamics, their behaviors, and the way they respond to you and the way they teach you. And it was like really intense, like processing what happened in those 3 years with him, like so intense. But I feel like he saved my life. I feel like if I hadn't met him and had that like extreme mirror that really like stayed center in a lot of my emotions and chaos that came up, and like energetic stuff, like I just feel like my life would have been really difficult. I don't think I would have like had an awakening, and this big it had been happening for many years before, the energetic stuff, but I don't think this big shift would have happened if that relationship hadn't transpired. You can always say there's ifs and coulds and all those types of things, but it's
totally.
It's such an intense thing, and people look from the outside and they don't realize like how hard it is to take feedback on your ego, if we just say ego for simplicity takes words, or the separate entity, from your partner. It's so hard.
It's not easy at all. It's like I like people that work with me, like even if they see me once a month or something, they'll have times where they need some space because it's really intense to be around me, and to be like, I'm, I don't push people unless they want me to, but as you know, working with people one-on-one, it's like it just comes out of me really direct, because I'm kind of like a no bullshit personality anyways. So I'm like, don't really know how to sugarcoat this message, when I'm working with someone and I can feel their fixations and all the things. So it's like being with, like, I was with Angelo all the time, and he was always, even if he wasn't verbally pushing me, his energetic system was pushing me. And then I was trying to like get something, and he was like, well, there's nothing here. Like there's just, just mirroring. I think I like that term for it you were saying too, like just mirroring it back, like, oh my God, I have to just keep looking at my shit, versus another partner, a normal partner, if you will, is like they have their shit. And then there's like, I don't know, in one sense, the way that it played out for me was so beautiful, because I went from a life with my husband that was really beautiful in some sense, but we both had our dynamics, and like I didn't like that dynamic anymore. I didn't like that two people interacting asleep, not really working on shit together, not really, like I just felt energetically and intuitively like I can't live in this dynamic. Like this isn't the right dynamic for me. And I went from that to like this radical dynamic with Angelo. That was it was really hard, but it was like it was a better fit for me. Like I think in some way I was set up to, like, I don't know, like in the same way you say like he saved your life, it was like I was just so ready and so ripe to just be pushed radically at that part of my life, to now be 33 and have like such a shift in identity and live such a beautiful life to some extent, it's miraculously weird. But it feels like no, I don't really believe in destiny, but it feels like it was supposed to happen like that, or it needed to be that way, or I don't know. It was
totally
hard.
And me and my partner, like with Roger, we worked out like how many one-to-one sessions I had with Roger, and it's just like extra, like it was so many. It was like something like it take like, if you did it weekly, it would take like 2 lifetimes or something, with a regular therapist, and did 1 a week. So you're kind of like there doing it all the time. There's no escape, and there's no like refuge. Like, so with Roger, like I just couldn't get what I wanted from him, and it kind of actually drove me insane a bit, like insane. Like I didn't go into like psychosis or have a nervous breakdown, but it kind of like drove me insane, as in like all my darkest stuff came out and was verbalized and was seen by him, and or seen by me, like really, really dark stuff, because you can't get what you want. Like for me, it was like I'm a bit avoidant attached rather than insecure attached, but for me it was just wanting to be seen and heard and empathized with. I think that was a lot of it that drove me crazy.
Totally. Yeah, especially coming from like trauma background, like
Yeah.
and I think it goes into this like attachment to unconditional love piece that we're sort of chatting about on text, is like, it's like, this is going to be, for me, it was like, at least this is my spiritual partner. They're going to be the one that really loves me and that really sees me. And like, no, that's not going to be the case. Like, no, not at all. And that was hard. I remember thinking so many times, like, at that point, I would still chat with my dad. I was really close. I'm still really close with my dad, I guess, to some extent, but I've always been really close with him. And like, he was the one I would complain about a boyfriend with. And I was calling him to like, what the heck? He's like, you're just going to have to leave him if you can't deal with it, and find the person that's going to give you what you want. I'm like, I don't even know what I want, but I wanted attention. I wanted to be seen. I wanted to be loved in that way. But it was weird because like, if I think of it, Angelo loved me so deeply. Like, what he gave to me was far more than anything in this like idealistic way of love I thought I wanted him to give me. Right. And that's not a gift that like my mind identified self could ever understand, but I could feel it. So it's like, I knew like, this is hard. Oh my God. But I know this is right. So I stayed, you know, in that intuition space. I was just like, oh God. But I know there's something about this. Like, even when I would complain to him that he doesn't love me properly or something, it's like, I knew that was not really the case. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's super interesting. I think we could, if there wasn't the restraint of being recorded, there's so much we could talk about. because it could be misunderstood from people hearing from the outside, because when you're in it, you really understand that like no bullshit energy that just won't, it just can't, it just doesn't have the patience to deal with people's games. I mean, it's now difficult for me. Like, I'm now on that side. Like, I can't tolerate not saying something for too long.
Totally.
Can't keep my mouth shut for too long.
And I think it's the I could feel it now in myself. It's the dynamic of interacting with no self in the expression. And that's probably hard to talk about and weird to be interpreted different ways, but it's like, it's almost like when it's that person is empty in that sense. You could like reach in and like nothing in them, like there isn't a dynamic to play a game with your dynamic anymore. And that's really challenging for your energetic system and your mind when you are still playing in a dynamic. And I know I'm making it sound like there's a shell and there's stuff in it, and there's a shell and there's not stuff in it, but I think to some extent energetically it feels that way. Like, I could always feel that with Angelo, and I can feel that with myself now, and I can feel that with people that really like embody this empty expression. And there's just nothing to like, I don't know, it's almost like it just bounces back. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't stay there and like get intertwined there, and then it just bounces right back. And then I'm like, okay, I guess I'm arguing with myself. It's like, you feel like you're talking to a wall, you're arguing with the wall, because like they just aren't there in that way. And that's I don't know, that might be interpreted weird or sound really weird, but I think at least some people that know the non-duality context could understand that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the people that listen to me already prepared for the weirdness stuff.
Good.
So you started dating or seeing or speaking with Angelo, and I know that Angelo started speaking before he started putting stuff on the internet. He just did really small retreats or really small events at his house. And you were involved in that as well?
He started doing little small house retreats in his basement. I helped him finish. He's got a little, we call it a zendo. It's this beautiful space that's carpeted and really painted. So I helped him finish that, and then he started doing retreats. And and I cook. I'm kind of call myself the house mom to some extent. I cook for everyone, and I really love to do that. And that started 5 years ago. Started the year we met. Maybe the year after. 4 years.
And did you enjoy doing that? How did you find watching that and watching people interact with Angelo and all the dynamics?
Yeah, I really love it. Like even back then, I think I understand a lot more now, like intellectually, but back then I didn't understand what he was saying intellectually. Like for years, I was just like, what are you talking about? But I'm so intuitive that I can just feel, I'm so energetic. I just feel I'm like, I know what he's saying, but I'm like, my mind's like, I have no idea what's going on. And I really love that. So I just sat there and I like sitting at the front. Like if I'm uh, uh, attracted to someone energetically, I want to be next to them. I want to sit at the front. So I would sit at the front and just sit there and meditate and just watch him. And it was really nice to see the dynamic of him interacting with people and just feel into where people were. I had a lot of competitiveness in the beginning still, where I was like, oh, they're more awake than me because I asked that kind of question, or I was very insecure about not understanding intellectually and being like with my dyslexia and neurodivergence. I was just like, how are these people understanding? And like they could like take his question and a year later bring it back and go, last time you told me this. And I'm like, I don't even know what happened 5 minutes ago. My memory is like gone. So it was really like, I didn't meet many people that moved in the way I moved in that way. They were maybe a bit more intellectual, but still across the spectrum of how they interacted with him. But yeah, so there was a lot of lessons in that as well.
Yeah.
And I remember feeling in the beginning like, for me, it was like from the insecure attachment, like I never had good friends. I never like really, like I had this desire to be close to people. And then I had this idea, okay, these are spiritual people. They're into the same thing. These people are going to be my friends. This is going to be my group. And I was shown a really hard lesson that like, no, that's not it either. Like you're not going to be able to stop and rest here either, which was a really hard but beautiful lesson.
Like there was a part of you looking for family or looking for your place in the world.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And there was like, it was so beautiful though, because I was always, I don't know, I don't know what it comes from, but I'm so set up to like, I feel like this body mind is my like science project for this lifetime. So I'm always like observing how it moves or how it talks to someone, or like, especially through awakening and non-duality, like I really like wanted to see my patterns and see like, why did I respond that way? Why, so it's very critical and analytical in a good way, I guess, about myself. So I didn't want to overlook anything. I didn't want to be like, yeah, no, I don't really feel that way. Like I wanted to be like, no, I feel that way and it sucks. I wanted to just die into the like the delusion even.
Did
I
your
wanted to know
personality?
it like so
Yeah,
intimately.
yeah.
Yeah.
And did your personality have that tendency prior, like, to fixate on things? Like when it gets into something, it either gets into it or it doesn't. Like, and if it gets in, it's like 100%.
Yeah, I think so, because I'm very like prone to like OCD kind of ways of being. Like it's like if I'm not interested, then I was even like that in school. Like if I wasn't interested in that subject, I would just be like the class clown and like make fun of the teacher and get thrown out of class. Like I
Yeah,
just couldn't. And I think that comes from ADHD a lot, but like there were things that I'm like a child on the floor with. Like for me, it was textile was really important for me as a kid. And it was like I could be fascinated by touching a blanket for hours or
yeah.
rubbing on the wall, but like to read this book or to do this other thing, I was just like, no. It was like a hard no if I wasn't interested at all, and other ways I would be kind of obsessive, I think.
Yeah, no, that's it. Really interesting, because that's what me, my partner, are also like. We're both neurologically diverse. I think you call it something different, slightly different. What did you say it was?
Neurodivergency. I don't know,
Divergent.
neurodivergent.
Yeah, I think that's.
I never know if I'm saying it right.
I think that's a more American way of saying it, divergent.
Okay.
And we have a tendency to, we're either interested or not, and if we're interested, we obsess. Like, so we will fixate on what we're interested in.
Yeah.
And I was the same, actually. I fixated on it, and it was like
on your behaviors and your thought patterns and stuff.
everything. Like I was just so fascinated by the subject as soon as I got introduced to it, and it was like bulldozer energy. And how old were you when you met Angelo?
How old was I?
Yeah.
Um I met him in January, so I must have been maybe 27. So I think I had awakening
That's
at
so
20.
weird because that's at the same age I met Roger.
Really? Oh my gosh. Well, Lisa, you haven't known about me for the last 5 years, but I've known about you. So I remember, I'll just say, just because it's really, I think it's really funny, and I told you on text, but like, I remember learning about your story with Roger and being in the same situation with Angelo, and being in the like the I want to say hell of it, but that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but just in the like chaos and the mess and mud of it. And I remember learning that like one day Roger was like, okay, you have to go. And I was like, oh my God, is Angela going to do that to me one day? And I remember feeling so scared that like one day he's just going to tell me, and we kind of had moments of that where we kind of broke up to some extent.
Yeah. Yeah, you can imagine
So
that is quite insecure. Like if you've already got an insecure a tendency attachment style, and then you hear my story as well. And Roger is so I think Roger's neurologically diverse as well. He kind of is open to that. And he's
nice.
so logical about things. He said that he turned the calendar over that day and it was like a spiritual calendar that had been given by, I mean, these friends. They weren't really friends, but we kind of knew them. And and it turned over and it said, when the student is ready, the teacher chucks them out. And then he decided.
Oh my God. See, most people would think of that like, oh, well, that's not love. But I think it's so love. There's something so magical about
Yeah,
following that instinct
yeah.
and that like life telling you something in
He
that
was,
moment.
yeah.
Even if it's like, holy shit, he kicked you out from a calendar thing. Like how weird, but I don't know. I think it's so beautiful.
But I think there was like a part of me that really wanted to go as well. Like it was relief.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like I said, it was different setup. But yeah, I mean, thank God he did. I mean, it was so magical
Yeah.
what happened from that. Yeah. So where did we get to? I've kind of
I have no idea.
So we got to that we were both 27, and you were talking about the group. And
Oh yeah, being with the group.
yeah.
Okay, here was one thing that was, I think, helpful to share with that was I noticed like, excuse me, I wanted to be loved and accepted by friendship and everything so bad that in the group, I remember I would be talking to someone like another woman, and then I would want to be her friend, but I was like, again, so insecure that I was like, I don't know if she likes me. It's like, then like I was so nervous about it that I would do weird stuff in the conversation. And also like, I think because I never really had good interactions with people, I didn't know how to be with someone, especially like raw and authentically. Like my persona knew how to be confident in any situation, but I didn't have access to the persona that I had, and it would come like in and out. So then it was this weird like manipulation behavior, like try to get them to like me by telling them something nice about them, or try to give them advice. Like unsolicited advice was something I did a lot, that they weren't even asking for my advice. They were just trying to tell me how they were feeling. And I'm like, oh, here's what you should do. Here's what worked for me. And it was very like, I could just feel it was weird in the moment. And then I would leave the situation and go, okay, that was really weird. What the hell was I doing? What did I want from them? And I would just sort of look at those dynamics. I could see like, okay, I wanted them to like me, and I wanted them to think that I was better than them, that I knew something more than them. And like all of those dynamics in myself. Like, so it was such a beautiful opportunity to see that. And then it was weird because the same girl would be at the next retreat next year. And then I would say to her, like, hey, like, I really saw that last time, and I just wanted to apologize. Like, I don't even know if it's important to go into details, but I just wanted to apologize. I was being weird. And she's like, oh my God. She's like, I adore you so much. And like, I don't like all the things I thought like somebody didn't like me. It's just like, but it was so beautiful to see that in relational with other people that are really the same place I am, just trying to, be as awake as they can, conscious.
And how many retreats a year did Angelo do? Were you in those groups?
He did twice a year. Yeah.
Twice a year, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's so beautiful when you begin to meet people in that space and like that
Yeah,
openness, and like you can express from a more deeper space.
totally. Yeah, yeah. And one of the coolest things he was doing at retreat, because him and I met through improv. You probably know what improv is, right?
Yeah.
Um, so that was really beautiful, and we both loved improv. And so he started doing improv in retreat, just like we would do like an hour group activity, and we would do just improv exercises. And it was really like geared around like being present with each other and interacting through presence. And like that was such a beautiful exercise. Like we would just
Mm,
stand there and stare at people and see what happens in yourself when you stare at someone. And
mm,
when you like, one of the exercises is like, you tell me a story, like he gives a prompt or something, and then you tell me a story, and my job is to just listen and not even like respond with my face or anything, like just blankly listen. And like there's so much like different playful presence activity like that was just so powerful
mm.
to do with people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it is. And do you see the same people now? Like, so is there like a group that you stay friends with, or is it always ever changing?
I'm kind of terrible at keeping friendships alive when they're not like right in front of me. I just don't think of things that are not in front of me. So I'm not like reach out a lot or anything, but there's a group like Tyler's one of the people that's known us and come to retreat, and I think you know Tyler as
Yeah,
well. And so there's people that come to a few retreats that we see here or there. Yeah, outside of retreat, I'm just not great at. I'm just sort of a introverted.
yeah, and I think
Great.
it's really typical if you're um, diverse. Like you tend to have that quality. Like if they're
Mhm.
like yeah, but it's
Yeah.
not always like I don't have that so strongly, but my partner does. Is if the person's not there, they find it really hard to think of them, including
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Yeah. My dad texts me sometimes. He's like, "Are you still alive?" I'm like, "Yep, just in my own little world over here. Don't know what's going on outside of this."
Yeah,
And awakening in this stuff has just not made it easier. It's made this dynamic more intense,
yeah.
which is fine. There's not a problem with it, but it's just weird. It's just funny,
No,
you
I
know.
find that I'm more anti-social now.
Mhm.
Like just
Yeah.
like it gets more. You just your tolerance for staying in a particular way of being is less.
Mhm. And also, I think like without seeking, like I don't seek anything. I mean, I didn't much seek external anyways, just because I think the neurodivergency, but like I don't really at all seek any, like I don't even seek to go to a nice dinner, or like I don't even seek to have sushi, and I love sushi. Like, you know
Mm,
what I mean? It's like if that happens in the moment, it happens in the moment, but I'm not like, well, I can't wait until Friday. I get to go to, I just don't think that way anymore
yeah.
at all. I just am
Mm,
like, it doesn't mean planning doesn't happen, but there's just no like, I don't know, to me, it feels like what's going on right now is so like all encompassing
yeah.
that I can't even process seeking something outside of this now,
Mm,
here.
mm.
Yeah. So
And
I felt this.
when did it change? Like, so you had these experiences in this retreat. When did it change the that experience? Was there a big change where it suddenly changed at once, or was it slowly
With
with the insecurities, or not necessarily the insecurities, but just with the like,
with people.
yeah, with people or with yourself, or like how you relating?
Yeah, I think, yeah, I mean, like there was a really big shift in the beginning of the 5 years. And then there was just like a lot of like, there was a whole year of like, oh my God, going through like the mud of shadow, and just like, oh my God, it was like every day I was just chucking in mud and dreaming in mud. Like I was dreaming like all kinds of stuff. Like it was just like a really dense year. And that's sort of the year when all these patterns was something coming out. And like,
Mm,
I don't know, it felt like they needed a situation for them to come forth, right? Like if I
mm,
just sat by myself and I wasn't in retreat setting, would they have come up? I don't know so much. Like they came up in an argument with Angelo, a partnership argument or something, or like then I could see like, oh, like I could see the motivation of what I'm trying to get from him or have him do or whatever by that argument, right? Or
mm.
an interaction with a friend or a group, I could see like what are my motivations here, what are my movements here, and then yeah, so then that year I would just like go to retreat and go to these environments, and then I would go home and like just really try to thoroughly see it and feel it. And that was like a year of really really hard emotion work. And then yeah, after that year it just got a little bit easier, and I went into some more like perceptual shift stuff. But yeah, I think it just sort of gradually happened over time, where then I was at retreat and I was like, I don't have an
Yeah.
identity around being a cook. I don't have an identity about trying to be someone's friend. And I was like, this is nice. This is
Mm.
really nice because I can just be here and see people. And the
Mm.
most beautiful thing, especially like in my interaction with Angelo, my partnership with Angelo, because that was my most immediate like reflection all the time, was it went from seeing Angelo as somebody that is mine, or somebody that is surrounded around me in some way, to seeing him as this like dynamic move dancing in front of my eyes. Like,
Mm.
you know what I mean? It was like I stopped thinking of like, I remember thinking like specifically like, okay, my boyfriend's gonna come over and we're gonna watch a movie together, and like sort of waiting for that moment for him to walk through the door. But then I started to realize like I am seeing him through me, through my
Yeah.
mind. I'm not seeing him at all. And I was like, oh, like I know like I deeply love him, but I also really love this idea of him. And I don't really know, that doesn't feel right anymore. Like it doesn't, and so I started to see that. And then when that kind of just shifted, I was like, it was like I didn't even think, like I knew he was on his way to come watch a movie, but I wasn't like anticipating that moment. But then when that moment was there, it was like, oh, there's this handsome man at my door that's watching with me, like how exciting. And like it
Yeah.
wasn't about me anymore. It was just
Yeah.
seeing like what's in front of me and what's going on. And like I, there was like more freedom in myself and more freedom in him, because it was like, if he's like, I don't want to watch a movie, it's like, okay, like I definitely don't want to take him from what he'd rather be doing.
Yeah.
But my insecure style was more like, oh, he'd rather be doing that than hanging out with me.
Mm.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but now I'm like, no, babe, if that's what you want to do, please, I want you to be doing whatever like I give him total freedom, and I
Yeah.
give myself total freedom. And that is to me the most autonomous, beautiful way of being
Yeah.
in a relationship or in the world, you know?
Yeah. And like just really loving them by,
Yeah.
because to me you can only really love them like through presence. Like so
Yeah.
we can have some vague story about our partner and like who we go home to or who we live with or who we share houses with or like dogs with
Yeah.
or children
Yeah.
with. We can have
Yeah.
these like vague stories, but like to really love them is to just see them as what they are now, which is nothing, like
Yes.
not a thing. And that's the only way I can, like before I had this shift, I didn't know what love was. Like
Yeah.
I didn't,
I agree.
like, because I thought it was these two stories meeting. And like you say, like you said it so eloquently and beautifully, like just you realize that you were only seeing them through your perception of them
Mhm.
and your whole baggage. So it's like just as they are now, like
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah. And that
and whatever
extends
you are
to
now.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it extends to the whole world, like how I
Yeah.
see my family, how I see this moment, how I see
Yeah.
my job, how I see my painting, my creative, like everything in quote unquote my life. Like I see it through like, that's sort of the way of mind identification. We see it through the way that we're going to get through it, or we're going to get something from it or give
Yeah.
something to it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, there's a whole lot of space to just be here now in what is, when we're not seeing it through any filter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. And so when you said the big shift at the beginning, like what happened in that? You said there was a big shift that
Yeah.
happened.
When I met Angelo in January, and then he was the first person that ever told me that it was okay to trust my experience, what I'm going through. And like I said, I was going through like a few years of like just weirdness was going on, and I didn't know what was going on. So he told me, hey, what you're going through? Like I told him, like the first night I met him, I just told him, I was like, blah 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 blah. Here's like the last 2 years of my life and my whole life, and I don't know. and I didn't even tell that stuff to my husband. Like I wasn't, like, I don't know why I was really close with Angelo right away, but I just was. And he was just looked at me with this beautiful like emptiness, and it was just like, yeah, that's okay. Trust it.
Mm.
And it was like the first person in my whole entire life that ever told me to trust my experience.
Mm.
Right. Because I had such an identity around like something's wrong with me. Like, I grew up in a foster system, being neurodivergent in a foster system where like nobody had the patience or care to take care of me. And then they were always trying to like make me, I don't know, it was just not, I don't know, it was just not right.
Mm.
And I just had such an identity of like something is really wrong with me. And like I can't really share myself because like it's wrong. It's not
Mm.
right. And Angela was like, no, who you are and what you're experiencing is right, and trust it.
Mm.
And that was just
Oh,
the
wow.
most beautiful thing anybody could have ever said to me. And then because I was still married at the time, we weren't part romantic right away. We were more friends, though we had obvious chemistry right away. And he said to me, he turned me on to non-duality. I never heard of it before. So he showed me non-duality. He sent me Audio Shanti, Jeff Foster, and your stuff as well. And I just loved it. I just listened to videos endlessly, listened to audiobooks endlessly, and just really resonated with it. It was just like, I don't know, like so many things. I did so much self-help stuff that I just was like, this is really cool. And then I would just like throw the book away and forget about it. And like I had endless self-help books that I didn't even finish because I was like, I could kind of predict the ending. I'm not really interested in this.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, there was some self-help stuff that definitely helped the personal growth and so forth. But I just was like not really that interested in non-duality. I was just like, oh my God, this is the first thing that makes sense to me, like
Mm.
ever. And so I just loved listening to non-duality. And he just said, sit and ask, who am I? And his teaching, I think his expression of teaching was so simple at the time that he didn't give me anything else. I didn't even know what self-inquiry or what does it mean to sit and ask who am I. I'm like, what do you mean? What am I supposed to be doing? But he just was like, just sit and ask who am I. And my husband had moved away at the time, so I had all of this free time. I wasn't working. I didn't have a group of friends. It just was me. And so I just sat on my balcony and I just sat there, and I didn't even know how to meditate really. I was just like, who am I? Who am I? And then it would take me, and I just was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I trust him so much. I'm gonna just say this thing, and I just kept like, who am I? Who am I? And then it would take me into these places of my mind where I'd have these traumatic memories come back that I hadn't thought of in years, and they were like, I'm very photographic memory, so they were very like visceral and photographic, and then sort of like the balcony off of my bedroom. So then I would just go lay on my bed and cry and feel it and look into these memories. And then as soon as my emotions would calm down enough, I would just get up, I would eat, and I would go back to my balcony. I was like glued to the chair. Like all I did for 4 months was sit and ask who am I and lay in the bed and cry. So I didn't have anything else to do. I didn't have a job, I didn't have friendship, I
Brilliant.
didn't have
Yeah.
I just had myself and who am I.
You
And
see, this is where I feel like I feel that this is part of like being neurologically diverse. And if you present this to a neurologically diverse person, like not all neurologically diverse people are the
you just
same,
get
but
obsessed.
there tends to be this commonality of fixating on something.
Yes.
And God, but I find that it really like when you say this to neurologically diverse people, they really are like, and it really touches something very quickly inside of them. And then if they fixate on it, like that's exactly the type of thing I would do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Someone would tell me that, and I'm like, I mean, look at what I'm doing now with the keto diet. Like I'm just so
Yeah.
full on. Like I'm such a full on person when it comes to it. And so when I hear you saying this, I'm like, yeah, like that's so cool that you did that. Like for 4 months up, who am I? Who am I? And eat, lay down, up. I mean, really like a retreat in itself.
Totally. Yeah. And I mean, I think I think the other part I think that's important to share about this was like by the time my husband had moved away and we decided we're going to separate, I I feel like in my life, I mean, I was only 27, but in my life, I mean, I must have been 20. Well, yeah, I was 20, 27. But in my life, I'd done so much. I felt like I left home at 16. I felt like since 16 to 27, I lived so many lifetimes. I moved so many places. I'd done so much. And every time I did a new thing, like I would just get bored. I'm like, oh, well, this isn't doing anything for me anymore. And I was the one that like left a job without 2 weeks notice, like endlessly. I was just like, I'm over it. I'm going to just move to another state right now and get in my car and say goodbye. You know, it was just like, I was just a runner. Like I was like, nah, this isn't it. So I'm going to go. And I think I was thinking in that I would eventually find it. I wanted to be settled. I wanted to be
Yeah.
able to be myself and be settled and let my heart open. But I wouldn't have been able to intuit it that way at the time. I just know that in retrospect. But I just kept moving so frequently to like in 10 years, I'm probably lived like 15 places.
Oh,
Not
wow.
kidding.
Yeah.
And so like I just kept going to find, I was just like looking for something. And I really thought like this, I knew consciously at the time. I really thought my marrying my husband and moving to Denver with him was going to be it. I really
Right.
thought that was going to be the thing that settled me. And here I was years later, like nothing was actually wrong with the marriage. Like it could have went on just fine. It was pretty simple. He wasn't a bad, mean person, or it was just fine. Like he was let me have freedom, let me do whatever I wanted, like didn't have a lot of pressure on me, but it wasn't what I wanted because there was something there that I couldn't really open up. And I wasn't settled. And I didn't know why. Like I remember one day feeling like, okay, this doesn't make any sense. Like this is the life I dreamed. Like I remember sitting on my sister's porch years before I met my husband and dreaming like she was married and had her first baby. And I went and visited her with a little baby. And I remember thinking, I want to meet somebody that I can share my life with. And I remember praying to the moon. And then like shortly after that, I met my husband. And we went on this journey of being together and moving and getting married. And I thought, this is what I dreamed. Why am I not happy? Like, why am I not settled? And I was deeply not settled. I wasn't just like a little bit uncomfortable. I was like, I want out tomorrow. Like I was ready to just run, but I'm like, okay, now I'm bound legally. This isn't like good. I can't just like up and leave like I could in my other parts of my life. And so by the time that Angela given me that non-duality and sit and ask who am I was tired. I was like bored with everything in life. I was like, well, what am I going to do? Go get married again or go find another job or go back to school? Like none of that was interesting to me because I did all of it. I did and endlessly did all of it. So I was just so ready
and
to
maybe
just
you'd
say,
done
okay.
it. Yeah, maybe you'd done it for thousands and thousands of lives before
Yeah.
as well. I don't know if there is previous lives now.
I
But
know,
like,
but I know what you
but
mean.
it's like I know
Yeah.
like that when you get to that place where there's like where you can see that there's nothing in life that can fulfill you, nothing, and you really deeply know it. It's not an intellectual idea that you've learned from a teacher. Like you really know it in your day-to-day experience.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I think, I don't know, I don't really read up on it or really follow it too much. As I don't know. I definitely feel there's something to past lives. I don't know what, and I don't even try to begin to try to interpret it into words, but it definitely feels like I've done this again and again and again. And that was the time where it was just ready to say, okay, no more. Like, what is it? And I don't even know how I knew. Like, it wasn't like Angela was like, I promise you that this is going to be the thing that's going to, you know what I mean? Like with non-duality, I just knew, I could feel it that this was the one thing that I was like not willing to let go of. And everything else I was like, okay, like I was just like so playful, like light non-attachment to things that I was like, even with my husband, like I deeply loved it and wanted it, but there was a part of me that was like, I don't really care if I'm married or not. Like I don't really care, you know. But I was like, oh, I'm not gonna let go of this. Like this question, who am I? I'm not gonna let go of this. I'm gonna solve this question. Like this is the one thing that I'm gonna not let go of. Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank God. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely changed and saved my life. I don't know. I probably would have ended up like not so much with a bad life, but more so with a not having a life. I think that's probably where I would have ended up. Yeah. It was just so painful.
Yeah. That I mean, yeah, I can really relate to that as well. Like it saved my life. Like I really, really mean that. Like it, even though in a way it didn't save my life because I don't feel like I've got a life anymore. But I mean, like, It's funny, it fell alive and it's working and interacting and it's
It
happy.
saved the physical life, I guess, in some way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Well, that's it. Be beautiful. And so did we get to the so we got to you did this 4 months. So the reason that you started saying all of that is that you were heading towards, I think, from what I can remember, heading towards like this first shift that happened, but you did 4 months of like, who am I investigation. I never really did the who am I investigation.
Didn't.
No, I never,
That's interesting.
like, yeah, that never, my thing was similar to yours, as in, like, I could hear people speak about this or be in certain energies, and I knew what they were talking about, so my whole body would resonate.
Yeah.
You know, like, so mine was always looking for that place of resonance. So the who am I just didn't really hook me, but this energy thing hooked me, I think, more.
Yeah.
I can't remember, but so I would love to hear how that manifested, because I never really ask people that much what happens when they keep saying who am I.
Yeah. Well, distinctly, I think, close to the awakening. I was sitting there and I thought, I don't know, I don't think it was a conscious thought, but at some level I thought that I was going to find something that I was. And like, I thought that was the goal of it, because like Angelo never told me what I was doing or what the goal of it was. So I just thought like one day I'll have this gem and I'll know what I am. I don't know. It was very unconscious. It wasn't conscious at all. Like I knew I was, but I knew that I had that unconsciously this day when I was like, oh my God, I am more than one thing. Like
Yeah.
what I think I am is more than one thing. Because then I was like, oh, I'm a picky eater. That's who I am. I am a wife. That's who I am. You know what I mean? Like all of these like labels.
Yeah.
That's who I take myself to be. And I realized that one day, and I was like, I remember I texted Angela and I was like, holy shit, like I don't have one identity. I have so many identities actually. And I was just like, I really thought I was looking for like one identity that was me. But I guess you could say there's one identity that's me that's inclusive of all those. But I was like, no, I didn't think of it like when it just would dawn on me, like even not being with my husband, I was then somebody else's girlfriend or somebody else's coworker, and that was like, and for me, the other thing that was like, I think maybe important to share is like, I studied acting off and on, and that really led me into the discovery of, wait a minute, if I can be Tiffany for an hour when I'm filming a scene, why do I have to go back and be who I am? Like it made me question, like, what am I? Like, and I think this is why who am I really resonated with me, because I would get these assignments from my acting teacher to be for 48 hours this character and learn the script. It's like the script is like a 15-minute script you're going to record, but you have to figure out and create who Tiffany is. I'm just using it as an example of the name, for 48 hours and be her, like shower as her, eat as her, like physically embody her. And I loved that exercise. Like to me, that was so fun because I didn't like myself. I didn't want to be who I was. So it was great. But it made me question, like, I would see it, we would film it and we would watch it back and we would critique it. And I would see like, oh, shit, when I'm watching it, like there isn't a trace of me there. I like totally look like someone else. And like, how is that possible that I'm able to embody someone else for a period of time? What am I then? You know, so I think that was a part of this stage as well. And then one night I was, oh gosh, there's the birds are, we have so much snow here, by the way. It's so beautiful. Let me see. I'm going to show you.
Oh, wow. Oh, it's gone on to me now. Sorry, can you just speak?
Oh, oops.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. Nice.
That works.
Yeah.
And
then it
the birds
me.
so like, oh, they're so beautiful. How they fly. They were like, just the line of them.
Yeah,
there we go.
Colorado is really beautiful. It is Colorado you live, isn't it? Denver.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine the nature is stunning there and the birds.
Oh, it's gorgeous. Okay, let me put that down again. Okay, and then one day I was sitting in the balcony, it was at night, and it was like a full moon or something. excuse me, in my balcony, and there was like this giant tree that was really close to the balcony. And then there was the moon, and it felt so close. And I remember I was meditating with my eyes closed, and it was at night. It was April because, yeah, so it was like late winter, early fall. And I remember I got up, um, I opened my eyes. Like I could remember this so viscerally when I tell the story. I opened my eyes and I just felt like this intimacy that I never felt before.
Mm.
And I, I was just like in awe, I guess is, I guess, an example of a emotion I was feeling. And I remember I got up and it just was like seamless. It was just like, oh, it's hard to explain, but I remember I touched the railing of the balcony and I looked at the tree and I looked at the moon and I was just like, wow. It was sort of like without words, it was like, I am that.
Mm.
This is what I am. And I just
Mm.
knew it. Like it wasn't with words, but I just knew it so viscerally. I was just like, okay.
Mm.
And then I went into my house, and my husband had just maybe a couple months ago, but he still had his clothes, and we had a shared closet. So it was like this long hallway closet of his clothes and my clothes. And there was a mirror that reflected, it was on the wall, so it reflected the whole closet. So I remember, I don't know how, I walked in the house and I looked in the mirror and I was like staring at myself in the mirror, like, what is this thing? Like it was so fascinating to me. I don't even know how long, but I was just staring at my face in the mirror. And I remember catching like through the mirror, like the clothes in the closet. And I remember I turned around and it was like, it was weird. I was like, whose clothes are these? Like, it's not that I forgot that I was in my house and they were my clothes and his clothes, but it was like, whose clothes are these really?
Mm.
Like, who are these people really? And it was really beautiful. I was just like, wow, because like for me at that point in my life, like I was saying, like I put like all of my eggs in that last basket of marriage.
Mm.
And here I was separated and asking, who am I and what am I, and not wanting to do anything like external with my life. And so I was like, wow, like who is this person? Because like who she was when she's married was not who she was before she was married. Like it was a different
Mm.
person. Like, I don't
Mm.
know. I just see how I was a different person in all these stages. And then I think it was late, so I just went to bed. And I woke up the next morning and I had this remote for the blinds. So the blinds went up and then it was like the sun coming in. It was just so beautiful, like a beauty that I'd never experienced. And it was so visceral, like I could feel it. And I just remember like feeling like awake.
Mm.
Everything was awake,
Mm.
just so effortlessly awake. Like I just woke up from sleeping technically, but nothing ever went to sleep.
Mm.
Nothing ever went to sleep. And yeah, I don't know. It just felt so intimate. And I started, I think I started like 2 days before that. I never wrote a poem outside of like elementary school. And I just started writing a poem like a couple of days before that. And then I wrote like two poems, I think. And then that morning I woke, I wrote a poem and it was just so like, this just flowed
Mm.
out of me.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'll let you
Yeah.
respond.
Beautiful. Yeah. Just gets me really silent.
So beautiful.
Mm.
That's the other part of it too. It was so quiet. And this time of year always reminds me of it because it's snow. Like the snow is so quiet. Like there's
Mm.
not kids playing, a lot of cars on the road. It's just like,
Yeah. It's just such a beauty when you walk through the forest and it snowed and it's not windy. There's like
yeah.
such a silence to it.
So,
Yeah. Mm.
and I knew in that silence that that was my home. That
Mm.
was the rest I've been looking for always.
Mm. And then once you had that awakening, so I don't know the language for it, but they used to say in Buddhism it's like a stream entry, because then you know without a doubt. You can know that like your freedom isn't in things. There is something else that's free.
Yeah, totally.
And then it's like, so they say extreme entrance because there's no going back. You're like on the
Yeah.
way to the gigantic abyss of nothing.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
I mean, like it's, you
And it
can't.
feels like that. It feels like you're just like down a stream, like you just jumped on the river and now you're floating down a stream. Yeah. So beautiful.
Yeah, nice. Kind of sent me into a bit of a like
Quiet place.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
really beautiful.
Me too. Yeah. Yeah. And then like I don't know how much more you want me to share. I mean, it was a year of bliss.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah, I suppose I could share it in like different storylines of it, different points of it, or I can share it in general parts that happened.
Yeah, whichever floats, whichever comes.
Yeah, yeah.
That would be beautiful to hear how it manifested.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I remember that morning being so beautiful. Like it just was so obvious to me that something was different. I think it was the most paradoxical thing because it was like something's different for sure, but it's all the same. It's the same house, it's the same PJs, it's the same couch. And so I remember sitting on the couch early that morning, must have been after I woke up at some point, going down and sitting on the couch and just like, I feel like I was laying there, but I felt like I was maybe like reveling in this, like I just was in this like joyful soup thing or something. I don't know. It was just so beautiful. And I was texting Angelo. I think that's maybe when I wrote the poem. I can't remember. And I sent it to him. And I didn't know like, oh, that was an awakening. I just knew that like, wow, something is profound. And at rest, like that part of me that just always wanted rest. And I knew that it wanted rest in things. It tried so hard in things. It was at rest. And then I don't know what happened with the rest of the day. And he had told me like, okay, that's an awakening for sure. So, but it didn't matter. It didn't matter what was said about it or not said about it. It was just like, I don't know. I just remember like, I just feel like dancing in it. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that day, at some point I ended up driving and I didn't know like, I think there was stuff still shifting. Remember he told me like, this can go really deep if you just sit in it. Just don't do anything, just sit in it. So I was like, really? Okay. Like, it was that part of me that was like obsessive, like, you want me to sit and ask who am I again? Yes, sir, I will. So he's like, just keep sitting. And he was away. I think he was like on Adyashanti retreat. So he wasn't like in town to be physically with me. But then I remember I was driving and I didn't know. I was like, oh my God, I'm driving a car right now. This is so weird. Where am I going? What's happening? And then I was like, okay, well, there's Chipotle. Maybe I don't know if you have Chipotle there, but it's a Mexican restaurant. And so I'm like, let me just get some food since I'm already in the car and I don't know where I'm supposed to be going, but let's get some food. And then I went in and I got food and then I was sitting down and it was like the walls of the restaurant were sort of like all glass. So you could see out to the the car park. And I was like just eating and looking at people walking by and everything. And it was like everything seemed to look like this matrix thing. Like it was like not solid in the way that I remember it being solid. And it was really like, I was like, oh wow. And I'd done some psychedelic drugs before that in my life. So I kind of knew it. It was like, whoa, this is really sort of psychedelic. And then I was like, wow, this is really interesting. And I got freaked out. Like, I think my heart rate went up and I was just like, okay, this is a little bit much. What's happening? And I just went and got in the car and I was texting Angelo and I was like, I don't know what's going on. And he asked me, he he said, what is the relationship? I don't remember what he said directly, but I remember kind of what he said. He said something like, what is the relationship between your butt and the chair right now? And I thought, that's really weird. And then I just closed my eyes and I put my attention there. Like, he's like, can you find the edge between your butt and the chair? And I'm like, that kind of threw me off, it wasn't what I would be looking for. And so I put my attention there and I was like, no, no edge, no edge. I don't know where the butt is. I don't know where the chair is. No idea. And I don't know if this was some sort of like litmus test for him to gauge where I'm at in my process. I don't know. It was really funny, but I was like, nope. And then I started to do that with everything. And I'm like, nope, there's no boundaries anywhere. Okay, this is really different.
And I love it how like he picks the butt and the chair, like because you were quite new to spirituality, like in some not spiritual groups, but it's like something I would quite commonly say to people, like the feeling of your bum on the chair. So you're quite new and you're like, he wants to know my relationship with my butt and the chair.
Yeah, it was really funny. But yeah, it just made me realize there wasn't any energetic boundaries. Like, I couldn't feel energetically any boundaries with anything. And I said, okay, well, maybe I'll go to the flower shop. Maybe I'll go to home. Let's see what I do, And I started driving. And then I was like, Lisa, I was like 2 blocks from my house, I'm sure. And I was like, I don't know where I'm at. Like, all sense of familiarity, is that the word? Gone. I was like, I have no idea who I am. I don't know where I'm at. I don't know why I'm in this car. And it wasn't scary. It sounds like it would be scary, but I was just like, oh, that's kind of weird. I have no idea what's going on. How am I supposed to get home? Do I live in this neighborhood? What am I supposed to do? What was I planning to do? It was so funny. And I think I just pulled over for a little while and just like stared off into space. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what's going on. Like, who am I? What am I doing in this car? But it wasn't, it was just light. It was very light.
Yeah, and then it's so beautiful that you didn't freak out. Like, for a lot of people, I think they would really freak out in that situation.
There wasn't really anything there to freak out. Like, I didn't really know, just there wasn't, I don't know how to explain. I was just like, this is really weird. Nothing was familiar. And then I somehow got home at some point, and then I remember just sitting. I was sitting outside on the bench, and that's, I think, when Angela told me, like, just sit. This will go really deep if you just keep sitting. And it was like, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. Like, if you're saying I can go deeper by me sitting on a chair, I'm going to sit on a chair and close my eyes. And I just did. And I felt it. Like, I kept feeling it, like, deepen in some way. Like, I don't know how to put that into words, but I could just feel it, just like plunge, just kept going. And yeah. I don't remember what happened after that day. Like, I know at some point, like maybe a month later or something like that, Angela was like, I'm going to Disney World. Do you want to go with me? And that was the best place to take anyone after an awakening. I swear, like, take them to an amusement park because it's just so fabulous. I was like, I was doing singing lessons at the time prior to awakening. And so I was learning, and I have a really high Broadway voice. And so I was singing Broadway show tunes, and that was I was doing with my lessons. And so I was at Disney, and I was on the bus, like I was singing all the Disney songs, like really loud, and like all the little girls were like staring at me like, who is this Disney princess, like, on the bus with us? Because, like, I'm this older woman, and singing, like, I'm Cinderella and Ariel, and singing really loud through the hallways in the hotel. And Angela was just like I was just off, like, just out there, like, I don't know, like, I just didn't have a sense of like I'm being too much. It was just like this part of me that never could express was just like, hi, I'm here. It was so beautiful. And there was so much like beautiful emotion things. Like, I remember like, he probably remembers this part of the story better than me, but like at some point we were like in line or something, and we went like behind somewhere that wasn't like around a lot of people at the amusement park. And I was like, I just sat there and just felt sadness or something. Like, but I was like, I remember thinking like, this is what actual sadness is, like just pure direct like
Mm.
expression of sadness. Like I was experiencing the emotions so like unhindered in any way or unfiltered in any way. And it was just so beautiful. I was just like, wow, like amazing. Also remember like always being really a picky eater. And at that time I was like, what is this food thing? I was like so interested in everything. I was like, that? What's that in my mouth? I want to know the texture of that. Like I just was like, I was like a baby. Like I wanted to see the and feel the texture of everything. Like there was like seafood that I would have never eaten. I would have been like, no, that's too weird for me. I would never, I was such a picky eater since I was a kid, but it was like I could see that now that like that was my way of identity. That was my way of
Mm.
control when I grew up in such chaos. But like now, so that was my way of controlling was with food.
Mm.
And then Angela's like, Angela eats like all kinds of stuff. So he's eating all this different stuff that I would have never eaten. And I'm like, can I try that? And I was just eating all of this stuff and like in love with food. I was just like having orgasm by food. I was just like, oh my God, this food is the best thing. I never ate before. I never felt an emotion
Yeah.
before. I never
Yeah.
cried before. Like I never did any, it's like a brand new to this like world. It was
Yeah.
really beautiful. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
I laughed. Oh my God, so many things were funny. I have this like thought that says like, hey, you need to get it together. You're in a public place. You're embarrassing yourself. I would have this thought that said that. And then I would just laugh so hard and like these louder because I was just like, I don't know. It was so obvious to me. Like, I was like, whose thought is that? Like, that is so weird. Like, what is it talking about? Like, is it trying to tell me to do something? Because I know there's no one here
Yeah.
to do anything.
Yeah.
Like, it was, it
Yeah.
was just a very dynamic, beautiful year.
Yeah.
Beautiful year. Poetry, I started writing poetry. It just came to me all the time. In the middle of the night, it would wake me up like hundreds of
Mm.
poems. And then painting, I never painted before that. I painted like ceramics, but I didn't paint like I do now, like abstracts and stuff. And that was born in that year. And oh,
Mm.
beautiful. It's a beautiful year of my life.
And did you have like a feeling of being stoned or something? Like like when you were saying about the laughing, because I had after this big awakening, like I had a feeling of being stoned, and also everything was so funny. Like I couldn't
Yeah.
really comprehend like these boundaries, like you say, of keeping something inside or outside, or and everything. Like everything was just, I could just find hilariously funny. Like it must have
Yeah.
been very
I
disturbing to
would
be
say it's
around me.
probably that similar feeling of being stoned for sure. It just felt like it was like out of this world. Like I was dancing in the rain and I was just,
Yeah.
no, there was just no boundaries. There was no
Yeah.
like filter
Yeah.
of like, can't do that. People are gonna look at you weird, can't do,
Yeah.
and but it was funny because I would have those thoughts, but
Yeah.
it was just nothing. The body was not puppeteered by those thoughts at
Thoughts
all.
anymore. Yeah.
It's like, what? Whatever.
Stop
Where's
having
that
it.
thought?
And then the
You know?
sensory world really wakes up. So like you were
Yeah.
saying about eating or sexuality, or like like just the outside, like looks, like the whole sensory system wakes up.
Yeah. Yeah. And it feels like everything is looking, like you're not looking
Mm.
from one point, like here behind the eyes. It's like everything is looking.
Mm.
Like I was a little girl amused by this body mind singing on the bus. And I
Yeah.
was this body mind singing on the bus. And
Yeah.
I was just the expression of sound.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't be able to put all that into words, but it
Yeah.
was so beautiful. It was just like the intimacy that I always wanted, the love that I
Yeah.
always wanted, that I never
Yeah.
got from
Yeah.
anything. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that's just such a, I mean, even if the story just stopped there, because then I know it went on and it deepened, like, and we've spoken, but that's just so profound that you met Angelo and it was like boom, boom, boom. Like not just because you met Angelo, you were ready when you met Angelo. It's like the opposite way around as well. Like when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. Like it's like it just all opened up so quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, 4 months, that's all it really took. But I was like, again, I think it really matters that I was tired. I was so tired.
Yeah.
I was
And you'd
tired of struggling.
experienced so much, like you didn't have any hope left in anything. So you didn't have a
No.
hope, like if I write a book or I become famous actress or like all these sorts of things, I will be happy. You kind of like knew that there was nothing that could make you happy. But, you know, having said that, you know, I meet people that stay in that state for years, but you might have been in that state for lifetimes of not being contented with life, you know, like that ball of energy. We don't really know about, like,
There
time is such
must
a weird
be.
thing.
Totally, there must be, because I remember feeling like with all these things, like I could, like it just reminded me when you said like go be a famous actress, like I know that I could, like I could achieve anything that even though I had an insecurity dynamic, I knew I could go and apply myself and achieve anything I wanted. I knew I could do that, but I didn't want to. There was something in me that was like not really that interested in trying to find it that way.
And maybe like a feeling, I don't know if it's the same for you, but like a feeling like you already knew it, as if you'd already been an actor, a famous actress, or you'd already, like there's another feeling of like, have you ever seen the film or read the book The Giver?
The Giver, I have not. I'm
So
writing it down.
it's I haven't seen it for years, but I remember in seeing it, there's this one scene or something, if I remember it correctly, where he, like all his memories come back and he had to hold the memories for the whole of his society. So it's like memories, like generations and generations of memories that come back. So it's not just his, it's like all their society's memories. So one human holds the memory of the whole society, which is really intense. And I remember feeling like I knew that as well. Like, because how can we not? Because if you look at like us scientifically, we are like the DNA of everything that's come before. Like, so our DNA does contain everything. Like, so I don't know how it merges with past lives or how to say that, but I remember watching that. And when I watched it, it was like a relief that that film was saying it, because it's like how I felt. Like it's like a part of this is, it's like I know every life, I've lived every life in a way, that there's no life out there that will save me or satisfy me.
That's such a beautiful way of putting it, and I would agree. Like I think we all have that. It's just, are we consciously aware of it or energetically aware of it or not? I would agree, like maybe that's the part of it that's like, well, nothing really phases because it knows it or something. I don't know, maybe that's just like the collective consciousness in some way, that we all share all the stories, all the memories, and nothing is unique really in that way. Like nothing is different in that way.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, your story is fascinating, and I really want to hear the next part, but we've done an hour and a half, so I was thinking maybe we could stop now and then do another one of these in a month or so, and you can carry on your stories and then, because what's really fascinates me, like the little we talked about on Telegram, is like this nothingness, this deep nothingness that began to emerge. I mean, that's my projection on what you're saying, but like this like well, maybe that's not quite right way of saying it, I don't know how to say it, but that was my feeling. And this like this absolute emptiness side of it. I don't know how to say it.
I think my best way of interpreting it, which I don't even know how accurate it actually is, but it feels like it maybe is like this first shift that we just talked about and I just shared, is like the spiritual awakening, like the spiritual being, the spirit awoke. And then what had happened more so recently, after a 5-year period, was the death of the spiritual one. That's how I would interpret it, which leaves this this beautiful emptiness, this like I don't know, and what I find fascinating is that there's some hi guys,
so adorable.
Do you have Khaleesi with you?
Actually, I think she's in the other room guarding the door, because there's another dog in the house. My mom's got a new dog, so she guards it,
Oh my gosh, so cute. Is this like, I don't know what I was saying, this beautiful like space, and I feel like in one sense, there's a lot of sort of similarities to First Awakening that's happening in this last shift, but in a different way. Like, I don't know, and maybe
without
a
the
more,
romantic side on it, like the total
yeah,
emptiness, like this like
yeah,
this because I mean, I'm projecting, I don't know your story and I don't know, but on the first side, like this big love side, it also comes with this is all you ever wanted. I suppose it's a bit like what Angelo said to me in the other, and then this other side is like it's
yep,
like so
what you
beyond the
don't.
human.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally. Yeah, you're I think you're interpreting it perfectly. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we should do another talk if you're open for it. You
Sure.
can see how you
Yeah.
feel after, and maybe we wait a month or two until like there's more that's happened there, and we talk about that. Like I would love to hear about that. I've so enjoyed hearing your story. I've been like so in you, if that's like so absorbed in listening to you and your beauty and your energy. Like it was just so beautiful to sit here and witness you express. Really enjoyed
Thank
it.
you, Lisa. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
such a
thanks
beautiful
for,
person.
yeah, thank you. You too. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. I mean, especially on where I'm at now, which we didn't really talk about much. We could wait for that, of course. But thank you for the memory of this, because like when I share this part of the story, I don't. It's miraculous to me that I can viscerally like experience it again,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is so beautiful. And like,
Yeah. And for
yeah,
people
I'm
listening,
thankful
like
for that joy.
yeah, and for people listening and hear that. And I think we both had like a real like in loveness with what you were saying, and to hear that and watch that, I think that's really beautiful as well, because it's it's like people can taste it. Like that was my path in, is that people would speak about this and I was like, oh, I can taste this,
Yeah,
like that, like I know what you're talking about.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I think it's what did I say yesterday? Angela and I did a little sit down video, and I don't know, I said something like, to orient to the I am, to the love, is is the most powerful thing you could ever do. It's a really important part of this journey.
Yeah.
But ultimately the I am goes as well.
Yeah.
Like the love goes as well in that way. Like, and I think that's just pointing to the like to not be attached.
Yeah.
I don't know. I partly don't want to say that because I don't like people that haven't had that first shift. I don't want to um, give them fear or something, because the love part is so beautiful, but it's like this part that happens however long later. For me, it's 5 years later, but it's a part of it too, and it's so natural to then let go of that too fully, um, to really embody what is, to really be the expression of what is. Yeah, there's so much more there that we can wait for, of course, but
Yeah. And in some way it's like such a heartbreak, but also so divinely beautiful.
yeah, totally. Yeah, I would agree. It's like your heart must break. There's like this line, one of my poems, there's this line that came that's something like, I want to be it's a sunlight, it's like a dear sunlight, and one of the lines is like, dear sunlight, I want to be blind of the way that I see so you can see through me. And that's really what this is pointing to. Sort of like the unconditioning in some way as well.
So beautiful. Yeah, thank you so much. I just really, really loved speaking with you. I just really loved hearing your story.
Thanks for having me, and great to chat with you. And
Yeah,
hope you have
and
a
I hope
nice
you'll do it
evening.
again, and we'll speak more about the no thingness.